All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is August 9th, 2021, a Monday, and CNN's big story this evening, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's remembering how she thought not only was she going to die, but she was going to be raped at the January 6th insurrection. And what I want to talk about is why they saved this news story with this actress for August 9th, the day leaving 144 days left in the year. We've been talking a lot about that number 144 since before the insurrection, since before any of this happened. And, it was on a channel deleted. But the videos I did on that before it happened, after the insurrection happened, those videos started to get a lot of views, and the channels were taken down for that. But again, 144. We've been talking about this number specifically with regards to what was going to happen on January 6th before it even happened. We had a pretty good idea based on what was simulated 144 days before the election at Jesuit Georgetown. And again, just to make this super clear, the number is 144. Today is August 9th. There are 144 days left in the year. This number is very special to a certain group that operates very much so out of Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. A group that most people don't even think about, even though their presence there is longer than the nation's capital, and that's the Jesuits. But this number 144 is really special to the Jesuits. And again, June 12th, 2020, which was exactly 144 days before the November 3rd election. June 12th, at Jesuit Georgetown in D.C., it was simulated, something called the Transition Integrity Project. Transition Integrity Project, TIP. And they simulated the election, and in the simulation, Biden narrowly wins. Trump refuses to step down, saying he's been cheated. And that leads to physical violence and death in the streets of America, this conflict that comes about from it. So when they started promoting in the mainstream that there's going to be this large gathering in D.C. on January 6th, and, the feds are on high alert, we said, oh, okay, this is probably the violence, the deadly violence that they simulated. This is what's coming on this day, and it's 6/1, as the majority of the world writes it. The American Civil War began in 1861. We'll talk more about all this. But again, I had out two videos. One was probably 30 minutes long. The other one was, a call-in show. It's probably 2 hours long. But we did both of these videos before that day happened, just saying the same thing in both videos. Just one was done like 3 weeks before it happened, and one was done just days before it happened. But just saying, pay attention to this ritual, because all year we said why Biden was going to be the president, how it was synced up in this big Catholic Jesuit ritual, which we talked about all year. And again, it's just like, remember the whole Trump scandal and impeachment and, digging up dirt on Biden. It's like, why was he digging up dirt on Biden when Biden was in last place in the Democratic contest? He was like the laughing stock of the political world, you senile Joe. But then he ends up being the candidate. This whole thing is such a cooked up Catholic mockery, as we'll get to, and people just don't see it, and it's so obvious in D.C., the land of Rome. But yeah, just we've been calling out the same number and making accurate predictions off it all year. And now on the day leaving 144 days left in the year, they got to go back and revisit. And now they got to tell this dramatic story of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, how not only was she certain she was going to die that day, but she was going to get raped too by the white supremacists in the hallways. And it's like, okay, where was there any evidence that there were white supremacists? Again, the whole thing, most of the people there were police and military, as we pointed out before. They even made it crystal clear in the news when everyone who gets arrested is former police or military. Again, these are major league psychological operations, you guys. There are some people who went to the January 6th rally to show support for Trump who didn't realize the larger planned events for that day, which are all orchestrated and simulated. The election was simulated, this was simulated, and all by this code and all out of this very clear place that's responsible for all of this, Jesuit Georgetown. Again, you guys, the Jesuits run this nation, and they run it like it's a theater production, and they do it by a code every day. And these are the actors, the actors and actresses, the Ron DeSantises of the world. Again, another Jesuit pawn, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jesuit Catholic pawns, Nancy Pelosi and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. These two Catholics are the face of the Democratic Party. And it's kind of weird when you start to think about it, because who's the most opposed to abortion, right? Catholics. Yet, face of the Democratic Party's Catholics. You know what I mean? It's just like, what in the world is going on? Controlling all sides of the spectrum. But look at this. Look at all of this. So, again, today is August 9th. Today leaves 144 days left in the year. And again, I want to make this real simple. Well, here, I'm going to leave this up here. I'm going to bring up a new slide. We're going to bring this up. And again, the most simple cipher if you're new here, Gematria. It's A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. When you write out Jesuit order, it's 144. This is a big number with the Jesuits. We've talked about the Jesuits in 144 nonstop since going back to 2014. My oldest work on Jesuits in 144. JFK's death, a span of 144 days from meeting the Pope on July 2nd. If you go back and look at my work in 2014, 2015, 2016, all those years that every time I brought up JFK's death, I didn't know something back then. But here, there's two things to know. The alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. This is how I learned Gematria. This is how I always looked at it. Dealey Plaza also equals 54, where JFK was assassinated 144 days from his meeting with the Pope, which was on July 2nd, 1963. And when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, notice how Jesuit order is 72. Remember, they were created August 15th, 1534. A date with 72 numerology. JFK meets with the Pope on 7/2. From that day to November 22nd, it's a span of 144 days. And Dealey Plaza, 54, 144 days from the meeting on 7/2. And the other value of Jesuit order is 153, and that same cipher is a Holy Bible. We'll talk more about 153 as well, but just those three numbers, and this is what we call the base ciphers: the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. This is how we've taught it since the end of 2016. When I finalized my first book, this is the way I taught it too, because I just said, if you know these four ciphers, it's just amazing what's done within them. But if you could only have two ciphers, it'd be the two on the left, the originals, the alphabetic order and alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. And if you could only have one, it's the dark blue cipher. But again, it's not just one. This is the system that they're using, and day after day, it's crystal clear. Remember, the calendar we're on, the Gregorian calendar, which is Catholic, in the English language, which was standardized with the spellings we use today in the 26-letter alphabet at the end of the 16th century, the same time the Gregorian calendar went into effect, about 40 years after the Jesuits came to serve the church. You can see that all of history forward is like this. These numbers so important. Abraham Lincoln assassinated 14/4. 144, the day he was shot. They say John Surratt, the man who was never caught, he's a Jesuit. And the Jesuits are known for assassinations. But look at this. Today leaves 144 days left in the year. Remember, earlier this year, this man was arrested for supposedly plotting to assassinate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And then today, the headline is, "I didn't think that I was just going to be killed." So you see how they emphasize that? That phrase, using the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, is 440 and 170. And notice just the word kill. It's 44 and 17, just without the zeros at the end. And again, Abraham Lincoln, Mr. 44 himself, shot on 14/4. What's interesting about 44 is it's spelled weird. It doesn't have a U in 40. Like 4, with the number 4 has a U in it. If you write out 400, it would have the U. If you write out 14, it has a U in it. But 40, we drop the U. Notice how when you write out 44, 144 and 54. Talked about this for a long time. You know, there's a lot to these numbers. But Abraham is 44. You know, Obama from the land of Lincoln, number 44. MLK killed on April 4th. Malcolm X killed on a date with 44 numerology. The first president to die in office died on 4/4, April 4th. JFK was the 44th term president. He was number 35, but he was killed at age 46. And Catholic, 35, and the most pure cipher, he was number 35, killed at age 46. JFK, the first Catholic president. 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament, 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament than the Protestant Old Testament. Again, if you guys are trying to wake people up to Gematria, a real logical point to start is most people have a Bible in their house or are aware of the Bible. You know, a logical way to introduce Gematria is through... There's a lot more I could say about this, but just like a real abbreviated version would just be like, did you ever know that the 4th book of the Bible is Numbers? That's the name of the 4th book of the Bible, Numbers. And in numerology, 4 represents foundation. And if you ever read the Bible, like anybody who's ever read the Bible knows it's just full of numbers. And a lot of them just seem arbitrary, but they're not. It's another language. Again, all this stuff comes from Kabbalah and in Hebrew, the original language of the Bible, where every letter is a number and everybody knows this about the alphabet. It's an understood component of the language. But again, if you can get people to realize that and then just say, you know, there's a lot of overlaps with words in Hebrew and English too, you know, from Israel to Jew to Netanyahu. I mean, just same numerical values in English and Hebrew. And there's a lot more as well. But again, you can see that the code was put into English. And I'm sure a lot of you know the Jesus example off the top of your head, just using the alphabetic order: Jesus, cross, Messiah, gospel, parables. They all equated 74, like holiday, like Jewish, like occult, like Masonic, like Roman, like Holy Roman Empire, like George Washington, the first Jesuit university, Georgetown, the year George Washington became president, D.C., the land of the Jesuits, the Scottish Rite Freemasons, JFK, Catholic, killed in Dealey Plaza, named after a Scottish Rite Freemason in a Jesuit ritual. Jesuits from Paris, France, where the Scottish Rite came to power, where the founders studied. Again, there's just so many ways that you can introduce Gematria. Through the Bible, through a historical thing like what I just did. I mean, you don't have to put it all together at once. But again, just get people to get the idea and then show them really simple things. Show them how in the base ciphers, the values of Catholic. And just say, like, what are the odds of this? You know, 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament than the Protestant Old Testament. And if somebody doubts that, they can look it up. It's a fact. 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament, 39 in the Protestant. 46 Catholic. Joe Biden becomes number 46 in an election that just happens to be exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. And as it falls, Inauguration Day is the 35th day of the Pope's age. JFK, the first Catholic president, number 35, killed at 46. Joe Biden, number 46, inaugurated on the 35th day of the Pope's age. And again, just the only other Catholic president in U.S. history. And remember, they called the election officially the day after the insurrection for Biden on 7/1. They called it on November 7th for him, 353 days after his birthday, the 71st prime, the same day he became senator-elect in 72. And remember, you guys, right after he became senator-elect in 72, remember Jesuit Order 72? We were talking about JFK's meeting with the Pope on 7/2. The Jesuits created on 72 date numerology, August 15th, 1534, reinstated on the Pope's 359th day of his age, the 72nd prime. But Biden became senator in 72, senator-elect. And right after that, his wife and daughter, just days after becoming senator-elect, his wife and daughter died in a car crash on Limestone Road. And remember, Limestone Road's got the 201 in it, in the same cipher as the Jesuit order. Big number with the Jesuits. Again, Ignatius of Loyola, the founder, his name 201. Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, his birth name. Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 201. He's the first pope to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican, which is called the Domus Sancti Marte. I feel bad for the people that watch all my videos, man. You guys can probably just sing it out like it's a song you've heard 100 times. But again, the name, even his apartment, Domus Sancti Marte, all 201. And Joe Biden's son, died at age 46, 201 days before Pope Francis's birthday. His wife and daughter die on 201 Road in a mysterious car accident. There's a whole lot more to it as well. But, and remember, Joe Biden, people, okay, don't be the person who leaves this comment. Nuh-uh, Joe Biden's from Delaware. Again, a moron leaves the comment every single time. It's so annoying. No, Joe Biden's not from Delaware. I know he's a senator there. Why don't you look into how many senators are actually from the state they're from? They're all a bunch of Jesuit pawns and puppets. That's why they don't give a shit about the states they operate in. Most of them aren't even from there. Joe Biden's not from Delaware. Getting mad at these people before they've even responded, but because I'm just so tired of it. It's the same thing from the brain dead parrots. It's like, go out and look something up before responding. You know, they always respond like they're holier than thou and they're not even right. Ignorance is strength. 1984 characters. Joe Biden is from Scranton, Pennsylvania. And that's where The Office is set, the hit NBC show. And why don't you look up how many episodes The Office ran? You'll see that it ran 201 episodes. And in every single episode, all 201 in the beginning, you have the Jesuit school from Scranton, their prep flag in the background. The Jesuits used and abused this 201 number. Again, Brady had 201 passing yards in this year's Super Bowl, ends up at the White House on the 201st day of the year with his Bucks, the same day the Bucks win the NBA Finals on the 201st day of the year, July 20th. The same day the moon landing happened in history and Neil Alden Armstrong's 201. And again, NASA is all Masonic and modern Freemasonry is all created by the Jesuits, and DC's the Jesuit Masonic city. There's so much to say about all these numbers on the screen, too. But again, just 201's enough for now. And, DeSantis. Today's the day leaving 144 days left in the year. Realize I did put a "the" in front of it, but it's fair because they use these numbers ritualistically. Again, Captain Tom in the UK, knighted on 17/7 like the Jesuit Order 177, dead 201 days later. On the 33rd day of the year, Tom 33, and supposedly dead from COVID-19 56 days after the first vaccinations in the UK, when the first person to get it was Maggie Keenan 56, like coronavirus, like COVID vaccine, like Society of Jesus, and the rest of the list. And all those things that I just said are just in that one most pure cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. A lot of things in that cipher equal 56 that have been the big COVID agenda, even toilet paper. Think about that. Toilet paper, mind control. Again, you learn this code, you see how the news is choreographed every day, how the rituals are performed, how we're mocked, and how people just march along because you see they're so well trained to just follow whatever the authority tells them, like they learned in all their years of slave school. But with regards to Ron DeSantis being front and center today, this was April 1st, 2020. We were talking about the significance of DeSantis being on his 201st day of his age, when he locked down Florida after the Event 201 coronavirus pandemic simulation, the same day the Military World Games began in Wuhan, China, October 18, 2019, 1 month before the outbreak in Wuhan. And again, the Military World Games were created by the Jesuits in Rome, and they started in 95 because the Jesuits were created to counter the 95 Theses and recognized by Rome on the day, leaving 95 days left in the year, which is why they assassinated Martin Luther King Jr., on 4/4, the 95th day of the leap year 1968, 3 days before the Club of Rome was established. Again, I mean, if you're trying to wake people up to this and you give them, just chunks of what I'm saying in these videos, these are things that most people, if you present it in the right tone, slowly enough for them to understand it, and again, you can slow down YouTube videos if I'm talking too fast, but yeah, I mean, these things that they do are just undeniable. 2 years in a row, DeSantis with COVID. He was the big story that day on the 201st day of his age. And there's been a million of these. It hasn't just been DeSantis. It's a nation of Jesuit pawns and puppets, and this is how they get played. And then, he locked down the state for COVID, but then the next year, which wasn't a leap year, so the next year, April 2nd was his 201st day of his age. April 1st was his 201st day of his age in 2020 because it's a leap year. There's an extra day. But this year on April 2nd, he got to be kind of, against the COVID. Instead of locking down his state, now he's saying, oh, we're not doing any vaccine passports in my state. But like I said, this is him just being the Jesuit pawn and puppet. And what it does is it creates narrative. So that they can say, well, does the federal government need to override more states' rights? Because these rogue governors could be costing the whole nation with their reckless, irresponsible behavior. You're reckless and irresponsible if you allow people to freely decide if they feel healthy enough to go outside without a mask on. If they feel healthy enough to go out in the world and brave the 99.9% something survivable illness unless they get their mandated Pfizer vaccine, which is on emergency authorization, which the same media is saying we need to go out and get it while also telling us it's probably not going to protect us from the variants this fall. So it's like, what are they prepping me for? Get a vaccine now and then another one in 3 months? But anyway, DeSantis 2 years in a row on the 201st day of the year, just doing his job as the Jesuit pawn puppet actor that he is, like the rest of our government officials in the nation that was bought and paid for a long time ago. Again, remember, Washington, D.C. has been an independent city-state since 1871. And remember in all your years of slave school where they made that point every year? Hey kids, did you know that Washington, D.C. is an independent city-state that rules over the rest of the nation? Because that's exactly what it is. And you're never told that in slave school, where your teacher thinks he's so smart because he remembers all the details of a story like Paul Revere, a story that was made for someone who's probably between ages 5 and 8. Some of you are going to think I meant something with that 5 and 8. It actually fits based on who told us the history, but I'm just saying these stories are for kids. 9/11's a story for little kids because it's totally unbelievable. You can get away with telling little kids whoppers because they don't know any better. Well, the American government and the American news get away every night with whoppers because they know they're talking to a society of little kids. They might have facial hair and pubes and they've gone through puberty and their voice isn't cracking anymore, but still, somehow they're like little babies. It's like stealing candy from babies every day for these people. Send us some more tax dollars. And I mean, how does the media choose these people? Like, how many Congress people's names do you know in the Democratic Party? Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Ocasio-Cortez? That's probably, if you can even get that many from the American people, but that's probably it. It's just like the Supreme Court, all Catholic and Jewish. Funny how the Protestant Reformation was against those same entities. Isn't that weird? And for people who don't know that, yes, it was. Martin Luther led it, and he wrote 2 books warning about 2 groups. And he wasn't saying all Catholics and all Jews are bad. He was just pointing out that there's really bad apples within those religions because their religions are kind of similar in the fact that they're holier than thou. And yeah, but just look at DC. I mean, isn't it obvious? The Scottish Rite is openly the most Jewish branch of Freemasonry. The Jesuits were created by Jews who converted to Catholicism. And, the whole Catholic 145 thing, what day was Israel created? 14/5, right? That's the official day. David Ben-Gurion declared it official that day, and that's what it goes down on in the history books. David Ben-Gurion, 145. Theodore Herzl, the founder of Zionism, 73, who died in history on 7/3, July 3rd. David Ben-Gurion, 73. Remember this year for Israel's 73rd birthday, which was this year, they were bombing Gaza. They were bombing Gaza the week of Israel's 73rd birthday. Gaza 73. Again, this is how the Jesuit world order operates. The Jesuits are a military order. They run everything from the U.S. to Israel to Europe to China. They are the New World Order. The Jesuit order equals New World Order. But, yeah, just, even without the numbers, why does CNN need to tell you about how Ocasio-Cortez thought she was going to be killed and raped by white supremacists? Why does this even need to be the nightly news story? What she thought was going to happen? Did she get killed? No. Did she get raped? No. What I would like to know, see, like real journalism. What I do is real journalism, real investigative journalism. Looking into things, putting out real information out there that helps people understand the world better. Like that's the purpose of putting out information. That should be, the Jesuit purpose is to confuse people and mislead them and use and abuse them. The real purpose as a human being who sees humanity as, one connected thing at the end of the day, living on one earth, whatever shape it is, the greatest. That's just what kills me about the truth community. That's been the greatest debate in the truth community. What shape do you believe the earth is? Oh, man. It's just like, and that happened in the time that Gematria was already here, and the proof and relevance of it, and the patterns, and what was coming, and what needed to be stopped, and how if we got this knowledge out there, the world could see it. Imagine had that become the biggest thing in the truth community that Netflix was making documentaries about, and basketball players like Shaq to Kyrie Irving were saying they were into. Imagine had that happened instead of flat earth. Imagine where we'd be. I guarantee you a lot further ahead, because people would be like, all right, I'm quitting the sports, I'm quitting the politics, just as so many people have done in this community. Again, for the person who's new here who wonders if it's like this for the Republicans, yeah, we've been exposed. This is all the political parties. And again, that should be clear because DeSantis is a Republican, but yeah, it's the two-party puppet show. The two parties that celebrate together outside of the the TV screens and the headlines. Drink expensive alcohol together. I'm sure get big bribes together from Big Pharma and elsewhere. But okay, just some other headlines to go over and just things we've been talking about. Remember before the election, we were talking about how this is the 59th U.S. presidential election. A lot of people get confused on that. They're like, how can that be if it's number 46? Again, some presidents have more than one term. But this was the 59th election, and what we were talking about is how the election was November 3rd, 113, and we've been talking about for years the Green New Deal and 113. Ever since they first mentioned this thing, we've been talking about the 113 rituals they've done with it. There's a bunch. And Ocasio-Cortez is the face of it. Her birthday is October 13th, 1013. Again, in numerology, when a number's in the middle of a word, it doesn't matter. So the digits in her birthday are 113. The face of the Green New Deal, 113. This election on 11/3, the 59th U.S. presidential election. Synced up with Pope Francis, whose name is 59 in the same cipher, who's called for the Green New Deal. And we were saying, before it happened, we were saying it would make a lot of sense if Georgia, if both of those two last votes for Georgia went to the Democrats, because then it would be the exact same situation as 2008 when Obama and Biden took the White House. They had the Senate, the House, and the Oval Office. So by those last two seats going to the Democrats in Georgia, it made it the same situation. And remember, Georgia went to a Democrat for the first time since Jimmy Carter, who's from Georgia, and that was on Jimmy Carter's 44th day of his age that it got called for Biden. Joe Biden's 44, Georgia's 44, and we've been talking a lot about 44 now that I think about it. But, this is exactly what ended up happening. And we're just saying it made sense because we know that they want to ram through some big environmental stuff. It's the year of Agenda 21. Remember the Agenda 21, which was in the middle of the 90s, the big New World Order gathering in South America to agree to have radical policies in place by the start of 2021 to curb global emissions, which they say COVID's been very helpful in. And the signing day for that was June 13th, the year they did it, June 13th. That's the day leaving 201 days left in the year. And then coronavirus simulation right before the outbreak, Event 201, and they say the silver lining of the coronavirus pandemic is how it's helped with climate change and Agenda 21 goals, climate change and coronavirus and Society of Jesus, all 56. But anyway, the point is, it's the reason all of this is so perfect is because we are living out a planned society, a planned democratic republic, planned news rolls. Remember that Newsbenders TV show in '68 did the episode about, how they're recording the news stories that will be aired 3 years from now. And the guy's like, "What? You want to hire me to create the news stories for 3 years from now?" He's like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, this is nothing new." He's like, "Here, look at, we recorded this, and this is being broadcast as the news now. We recorded this back then." It's so obvious, you guys, we're living out a staged, managed reality. And again, that doesn't mean we live in a computer simulation. That means the people who rule over us, that they treat the world kind of like it's like that, contriving the headlines each day to steer our minds. But again, if we broke this system, there's only one way to break the system: to not consent to it, to not participate in it. And people will only feel safe to do that when there's enough people organized and networking and working to achieve those goals and protect themselves from the tyranny that would come from government and retaliation, jailing you, fining you. You see, that's the mind control we're under, that we think government has the right to jail and fine us if we don't comply with their bullshit. The same government that took pharmacology from 100 years ago, which was all plant-based, and made all of that pretty much illegal, and then only went with these man-made drugs that have all these crazy side effects and aren't as effective, but are at the end of the day a lot more profitable and exclusive, because, any Joe can grow cannabis in his backyard. You guys, I've never been one to have aches and pains, right? I guess I've injured myself in sports, but I haven't had like lingering aches and pains. And historically, when I was younger and I'd get injured, I'd just tough it out for a week and normally feel better. Worst thing I ever had was broken ribs, and that was annoying, man, because it was just like you didn't want to laugh at all. If you laughed, it hurt so bad. But, that's just another thing there's not really anything you can do for it. I guess you could put ointments on it that get rid of pain, but I never did stuff like that when I was younger. Well, lately, again, I'd been having my hand hurt so bad, and somebody actually sent me something about a year ago now. The man who sent me that big kit, in that kit, there was all these things, all these cannabis products, and one of them was hand cream. I was dealing with pain in my right hand for months, and I just got, I was just like, and it was from being out on the street every day and holding the megaphone and the signs and wind blowing and, standing out there hours and hours a day. But I just dealt with the pain for a while, and then Sweet Lady was like, "Why don't you put the marijuana cream on?" You guys, I put it on that one night, and it felt like 90% better. I've only put it on one other time, and this is weeks ago now, and I haven't had any pain in my hand since then. And I'm just like, oh my God, the cannabis hand cream works that good? The pain was annoying, and it just wiped it out almost like that. It's like, this is what used to be the medicine 100 years ago. This works way better than this stuff you buy that can have all these side effects, maybe irritate your skin. Who made these rules? Our government. Why did our government make these rules? Because who controls the government? The people with the money and the power. So if they start going, well, wait a minute, let's make some laws that really benefit us. Let's wipe out the pharmaceutical world. Let's make it so we control the pharmaceutical world and we get all the profits from everyone's ailments and pains. That's a little bit exaggerated, but that's essentially what happened in this world. And that's why for years, it's been this way since the 90s. They've been talking about how essentially 5 companies run every sect of our society, from agriculture to news to, accounting firms. It's just like you look everywhere, there's just like 5 big companies that have branches everywhere across the nation. It's like mom and pop can't compete, man. The advertising's got the TV bots hooked. They only go where that corporate advertising is. They don't even look for mom and pop in their phone book. They're like, oh, H&R Block, I'll go there. Where's that at? Fast food lines always backed up. The trashiest. I don't even know why people go to fast food anymore. It's not even inexpensive. When I could understand fast food when I was growing up. It was cheap. Fast food's not even cheap anymore. And it's not even, a lot of these places aren't even trying to be fast either. And it's just like, why not just stay home and make a better meal and save money? And, it's because people are programmed, man. And this is how they program them every day. Same way they program computers with numbers. And, again, every day, just buy the script. And just, here's an older post, this post from 2019, it's years ago, but just talking about the same number patterns all these times, long before the election. And, two Catholics up there, Alexandria and Nancy in Roman, D.C., where the Roman fasces are on the House of Representatives, and the fasces is the base word for fascism, and fascism came from Italy, like the Catholic Church. And fascism, again, Mussolini's who created fascism. Mussolini said it was the merger of government and corporation. My, oh my. Fascism's never been in such plain sight as it is right now, where Big Brother and Big Pharma and Big Media tell you how to live your life, what the new rules are, what the new normal is. And again, I mean, it's funny how in my generation, we always learned in school how bad communism was, and communism was where your government's always propaganda, and it's always trying to steer you and control you, and you have limited freedom. It's like, well, I guess based on what they taught us growing up about communism, I guess here we are. I guess this is communism. Fear. CNN's headline story literally 2 days ago, I showed it was, how there needs to be more fear to scare more people into vaccines. But by the way, sweet lady doesn't really want me talking about everything she's got to do in her private life, but she has decided she's not going to get the vaccine, and the world showed her the sign today that she should not get it. And I'm not even going to tell more about the story, but I just want to say that I knew she was going to make the right decision. So, yeah. So that's great news over here, by the way, too. It's getting dark in here. The days are getting shorter. Ooh. A month ago, it'd still be light outside. But, yeah, again, JFK with the Pope. July 2nd, dead 144 days later. Today, the day leaving 144 days left in the year. Ocasio-Cortez talking about how she thought she was going to be raped and assassinated, and by white supremacists. And again, it's just like, come on. I mean, was there any sign that there were white supremacists at the rally from what was shown on TV the day of the event? It's just like, come on. I mean, she knows she doesn't have to be accountable. She's part of the system. She'll be in office as long as, they tell us on the news that she got the majority of votes. Again, people still voting in this country are just validating the lie. Burn it down. But, yeah, again, the Capitol rioter who was Capitol rioter charged with threatening to assassinate Rep. Ocasio-Cortez. Again, this news came January 23rd, her 103rd day of her age. Her full name in the most pure ciphers, 103, Jesuits 103. And the man, his name was Garrett Miller. You see how Garrett Miller's 138? So is Donald Trump. So is Federal. You see how Garrett Miller's 30, or how both Miller and Garrett are both 33 and 39, and Federal's 33 and 39 as well. Again, you look at the stories they give us day after day, there's just way too many of these. I mean, it's possible that sometimes these things could be a coincidence, but it's like this is the way the stories are coded literally every day. And again, that's what allows us to make accurate predictions. That's why YouTube has to continue to delete my channels. We continue to forecast what's going to happen before it happens and be very accurate with it. So, yeah, I mean, and every time we're just talking about the same thing. Jesuits. By the way, I just want to point out that from January 6th, the day of the insurrection, to today, August 9th, it's 216 days, the day they're telling us this story about, the almost rape in her mind. And again, why is that a news story? What she thought was going to happen? Why is that the story? That's not what happened. All of her fears and insecurities and worries. I mean, I didn't even finish my sentence earlier, but the real thing that needs to be asked by a journalist is, Alexandria, what do you think about all the Catholic Roman symbolism downtown, the Catholic presence on the Supreme Court? Is it a coincidence that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was Jewish, died on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and was replaced by Amy Coney Barrett, a Catholic? Why are there so many Catholics and Jews on the Supreme Court? What is your background? Are you from a Catholic Jewish family? I think that's actually her story, isn't it? And again, I mean, do you think maybe that the American government, with its military all over the world, bombing, killing, pillaging, what we did in the Middle East, the resources, guarding the poppy fields, bringing back the poppies, now a heroin epidemic here. I mean, do you have any comments on these things? Are these things all just coincidences? But by the way, is it a coincidence that Jesuit Georgetown simulated this 144 days before the election, and now you're in here on the 144th day of the year telling this, thing that was going to happen in your mind that never happened? Don't you think there's more important things that the people of the world need to hear tonight than your horrible rape fantasy? I mean, and that's the thing too, you guys, like already an over-sexualized, society in all sorts of ways, and then just to make that the topic tonight, the almost rape. And was there an almost rape? I mean, do you think she was really in jeopardy at all on January 6th, any of these politicians? I'd wager a lot that the answer is no. Again, this was all simulated, planned, and coordinated. And I imagine the politicians, who are a bunch of sellouts, maybe not every single one in there. I shouldn't. I don't know. I can't name every person in office, but I just feel like if politicians in D.C. were really there and really saw how bad things were right now and really wanted to get the word out, I feel like they'd have as much passion as I do. And they'd be on YouTube and everywhere else they could get their voice out every day. Because they might say, well, CNN won't cover me like they will Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Well, if that's the case, then get out on social media and get your message out there, because guess what? You can get even more views. If you're a famous politician, that should be a lot easier for you to do. And so I tend to believe that pretty much all of them are bought and paid for, and they're all a bunch of frauds if they're in that city and made it through an election. They might let an honest guy through here and there to make some people believe there's still some hope. But anyway, today, the 216th day, what do we know about 216? Again, that's the product of 6 times 6 times 6. They use that number ritualistically that way. And this is evil. This is evil. And again, kind of XXX. That's the other point I wanted to make. X is the 24th letter of the alphabet. In numerology, 24 is 2 plus 4 is 6. So in the most pure cipher, X is worth 6. So XXX is 666. She's talking about how she thought she was going to get raped by white supremacists. And yeah, I mean that's pretty, that's a graphic thought. And why are we hearing this graphic thought on August 9th, the day leaving 144 days left in the year? Again, I'm answering the question for you. It's because this is how these people operate. They got everyone's heads filled up with the same things. And a lot of that is sex. What's going to get me laid more? Caring about the truth or, and the answer to that question is always whatever the other thing is. Most people are turned off by the truth. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you should go away from the truth, because being about what you're really about, it might be a lot harder to find the right person out there. But if you're still trying to find the right person, if you're totally about what you're about, you're going to find the person eventually who's just right for you. And again, there's some love stories creeping up in this community since I shared the story about the first Gematria marriage that I just became aware of, people that met through this work and this channel. I've now become aware that there's people in this community that are doing a long distance relationship and it's going great. And I was like, wow, that's a big commitment. But they met through this work too. And in fact, that marriage is kind of long distance. One's from the UK, the other's from New York. But anyway, making it happen. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I wonder if she's inspiring people to get married from the UK to New York, So everybody in the UK that just loves AOC so much, like over here, how people love the royal family, I don't know. I don't know, man. But what I do know is why they saved this ridiculous story for the day leaving 144 days left in the year, and that's also why DeSantis was in the news. And to come back to the 201 point, again, the 201 thing. Just look at you guys in the most simple cipher. We got to close out with 201 in the January 6th insurrection. The founder of the Jesuits is Ignatius of Loyola. His name is 201. The first Jesuit pope is Pope Francis. His birth name is Jorge Mario Bergoglio. 201. And again, look it up. He's the first pope to ever live in Suite 201 at the Vatican, and he's the first Jesuit pope. And if you look it up, you'll see that it's called the Domus Sanctae Marte, spelled just like that, 201. The Domus Sanctae Marte. And again, the Jesuit history is they were saved by Catherine the Great, who preserved the order with 201 Jesuits. And then there's about a million more things, but I want to make this point too. If you write out Order of Illuminati, it equals 201. And the Order of Illuminati is a real thing in history. It was established May 1st, 1776 as the Bavarian Illuminati. It was quickly renamed the Order of Illuminati by Adam Weishaupt, who was a Jesuit. The creator of the Order of Illuminati was a Jesuit. It was established May 1st, 1776. He would go on to die November 18th, 1830. And that was 201 days after the anniversary of the establishment of the Order of Illuminati by a Jesuit. And I'll tell you one other thing. Well, here, let's finish the 201 thought, and then we'll come back to the other thing I want to tell you. If you run the alphabetic order in reverse, if you run the alphabet, you see how Order of Illuminati is 201 and 258? So was William Henry Gates, Bill Gates, and again, those are real big numbers with Bill Gates. And it'll time with the final point. But notice if you write Confederate, it's also 201. And Abraham Lincoln, who was shot on 14/4, he penned a letter June 8th, 1864, about how there never would have been a civil war in America without the sinister influence of the Jesuit order. The Jesuit order 201 in the same cipher as Confederate. And in D.C., there was only one Confederate statue, and that was of Albert Pike, the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason, again, an order that came to power in Paris, France, where the Jesuits were created, who created modern Freemasonry, and D.C.'s the land of the Jesuits and the Scottish Rite Freemasons. But the Albert Pike statue was torn down after the George Floyd killing. Remember, George Perry Floyd is 201 in the most simple cipher, and there was about a million other 201s with the George Floyd thing, including the fact that he was being protested, his killing was being protested in Paris, France, along with the name of Dame Traore, who was killed by police, and people thought it was racist. And he was killed on July 19th, 2016, a leap year, the 201st day of the leap year, exactly 201 weeks before George Floyd. But after the George Floyd protest, they pulled down the Albert Pike statue on June 19th, which is Juneteenth, the day the slaves were freed. And then 1 year later, Juneteenth was made a federal holiday by Biden, whose son died at 46, 201 days before the Pope's birthday, like his wife and daughter died on 201 Road. But again, the 201 ritual happens with George Floyd. Albert Pike statue comes down June 19th. And here, I'll just show you. And again, you can look up all this stuff and see if any of this is wrong. I'm telling you it's not going to be. It's all facts. Albert Pike statue came down June 19, 2020. And the January 6th insurrection, 6/1, like the Civil War in 1861, plus Washington, D.C. equals 61. But look at that. From the statue coming down to the insurrection, 201 days. And the Confederate flag flew. And again, we said Civil War symbolism would be apparent. That was one of the things that I said would happen January 6th, because I said the Civil War is the symbolism. We've already been talking about this with George Floyd. George Floyd, they call him George Floyd without the Perry. Perry's the full name, but George Floyd's got the 119 and 43, just like Civil War. There's a whole lot more to all this stuff. Civil War's got the 56 in it. Look at Washington, D.C., 56, 61. See how Washington, D.C. is 56, 187? Society of Jesus, 56, 187 from Paris, France. The list goes on. Can go on all day about all this stuff with a million more examples for each of them, but I mean, it's just so obvious who runs the show. And that's why, like some people, if you didn't watch my channel on Gematria Effect Sports yesterday, my video on Gematria Effect Sports, that's my other channel. I showed off Neo the Hacker's video, and I thought he did a great job, and I gave him one criticism. And Neo, if you disagree with me, you're your own man. You can do whatever, but I just put out my criticism because it's just what I think from experience. And then I showed Derek's work because Bobby was in the chat, and he said, why don't you give Derek a shout-out? And I explained, I guess I gave Derek a shout-out. I told everybody where his channel was, but I said the reason I don't really give Derek many shout-outs anymore is because his work is just too abstract, and the connections he makes, I think, are a lot of times like why? There's just so many more relevant things, but I mean, he just it totally ignores the Jesuit thing for the most part. I know in some videos he's called it out, but yeah, I mean, it should be a unanimous sound in the people doing the research in this community. It's the Jesuits who coded the language, synced it up with the calendar, and who are playing this game with us every day. And the reason we need to get unanimous on that message is because there's all the evidence in the world there to prove it. And this is what people need to know. This is what needs to be stopped. So, need to look into if Derek went to Marquette. I hope not. Then I'd be worried. I don't think he did. Marquette's the Jesuit school in Milwaukee. And remember, Milwaukee on the 201st day of the year, Bucks and Bucks. Bucks at the White House with 201 Joe Biden. And yeah, if you doubt that Beau Biden's son died 201 days before Pope Francis's birthday, go look it up. I guarantee you it's a fact. Dead at 46, 201 days from Pope Francis's birthday. And there's a lot more where that came from. Again, it's not an accident that Inauguration Day is 20/1 as the majority of the world writes it. 20/1 like 201. If you go to the website, I think it's this, Inauguration of the President of the United States. I think that's what it says on the U.S. government website. Yeah, that's exactly what it says. If you go to the U.S. government's website, the name of that day, that's exactly what it says for the title. Inauguration of the President of the United States. And the most pure cipher, it's 201. Joe Biden, right when his political career starts and there's so much more to his wife and daughter's death. It's synced up with the Pope and the Superior General, the leader of the Jesuits. We've covered all this stuff in the past. It's just, again, anybody, and you know what? If Derek's out there and Derek doesn't think it's the Jesuits or Dan Barron, I know Dan Barron, Dan, I love you, man, and you're a smart guy, but I have not watched one of your videos for months because what came out of your mouth was, I don't think it's the Jesuits, and I just had this example of this synchronicity with the salsa bottle in my life, and I was like, come on, man. Did you just say that you don't think it's the Jesuits and you had a synchronicity with a salsa bottle? I mean, come on, man. It's the Jesuits. It's not your salsa bottle. Dan's a really smart guy, but I don't know, man. It's just like, these people need to be stopped. All of this stuff needs to end. I hate to waste buildings, but I really do think just DC, it's like some satanic, psychopathic place. It's like, I think it just needs to be burned so something nice can come back. All that comes out of there is evil scumbags. Operate this way every single day. Oh, boy. All right, I'm going long, True Seeker. So I was going to, spend some time with Sweet Lady. But, yeah, she made a good choice. So we're happy over here. Anyway, have a good night, True Seeker. Until next